All right, all right. It's your man, Jimmy Chan. All right, so we talked about function notation, and with functions, we know f of x is a so-called function. So the inverse of that function, we actually label as f to the negative 1 of x. Okay, so when you see this, it's not about, hey, put it in the denominator. It is just saying this is the inverse of f of x, and that's all it's saying. So how do we find inverse? So how do we find an the inverse of a function? Okay, good question. So let's take, for example, they give you f of x is equal to 4x plus 3, okay? And they want you to find f negative 1 of x, okay? So, in other words, find the inverse. So what should I do? So first, we're going to replace f of x with y. So, okay, so y is equal to 4x plus 3. And then, step 2, switch the x and y and solve for y again. Okay, so, all right, so I'm going to switch the x and y. So x equals 4y plus, plus 3. Okay, so now I got to solve for y again. So I got to get y by itself. So what do I need to do? I need to subtract the 3 from both sides. So I'm going to have an x minus 3 is equal to 4y. And I got to divide everything by 4. So now I have y is equal to 1/4 x minus 3/4. Okay? So now I can say, well, I guess I can have two possible answers here, right? All depends on how I did that. Now this, I can call this right here f of the inverse of f of x is equal to 1/4 x minus 3/4. Okay, so there is my inverse of that function. Okay, so that's all you gotta do. Replace the f of x with y, switch the x and y, solve for y again, and then put that function notation for the inverse function back in, and voila, there we go. All right, now you might have even got f of negative 1 of x is equal to x minus 3/4 as well. That will also be considered to be correct as well, all right? Just so you guys know, all right? Now, what is another thing that they might ask you to do? They might ask you to say, hey, so if you're given two functions, okay? So let's say you're given f of x is equal to 3x plus 1. And then they're giving a g of x, and that is x minus 1/3. And they might say, hey, are these two inverse functions of each other? Okay, so in other words, is g of x the inverse of f of x, and is f of x the inverse of g of x? That's what's asking, right? Are they inverses of each other? So again, are they inverses of each other? Okay, so let's first make these different colors. Let's go purple. Okay, so in order to figure if that's true, what I want to do is I want to find the f of g of x and see if that is equal to g of f of x. And if they are the same, then I do know that they are the inverses of each other. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's find the f of g of x. And g of x is that. So f of g of x would be 3 times x minus 1 over 3 plus 1. Okay. So what does that give me? The 3 cancels out. I'm left with the x minus 1 plus 1. So I'm left with just plain old x. Okay? Actually, there we go. All right. So let's do the g of f of x. So the g of f of x would be 3x plus 1 minus 1 all over 3. Okay? So that means I have 3x plus 1 minus 1 goes away. Over 3. The 3 cancels out. I'm left with x. So they are equal to each other. So therefore, I can say, since f of g of x is equal to g of f of x, f of x is the inverse of g of x. So in other words, f of x is equal to g negative 1 of x. And g of x is the inverse of f of x, which means g of x is equal to f negative 1 of x. There we go. All right. So there we go. So that is the two things that you're probably going to be asked for. And then they're going to talk about the one-to-one, which is someone brought up about the horizontal line test at some point. So a function, f of x, has an inverse that is a function if it passes the horizontal line test. So a function f of x has an inverse that is a function if it passes the horizontal line test. F of x is also a one-to-one function. There you go. All right. Hopefully this helps. If you have any questions, let me know. See